All right, let's talk about the biggest source of stress on the SAT, the clock. But what if I told you that by the end of this, you're going to see that clock not as a countdown to panic, but as your secret weapon to a higher score?
I mean, this is how it feels, right? That ticking clock seems like it's working against you, counting down every single second you're stuck on a tough question. It is, without a doubt, the #1 source of pressure on test day.
But what if we could just flip that script completely? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to turn that clock from your biggest enemy into your most powerful ally in this whole process.
So let's kick things off with a new perspective. Don't think of the SAT as just a test of what you know. Instead, think of it as a strategic race. And like any great racer, you've got to have a plan to win.
Here's the absolute truth. Knowing all the math formulas and grammar rules, that's only half the battle. Seriously. If you can't use what you know quickly when the pressure's on, you are literally leaving points on the table. To really crush the SAT, you have to master the content and the clock.
So let's totally reframe how we think about this. Time isn't just a limit they put on you. When you manage it the right way, it becomes your secret weapon, your superpower on test day. You know, I absolutely love this idea because it is so true. Every minute you save on an easy question is another minute you can spend on a hard one. So smart timing doesn't just help you finish, it actually multiplies your potential for a higher score. Here's a cool way to think about it. Imagine the SAT isn't a long, painful marathon, but more like a rhythm game. Your goal is to build momentum, you know? Just keep hitting those easy notes, racking up points, and never ever get stuck on one super hard sequence. Just keep moving and keep scoring. Okay, so with that mindset, it's time to get tactical. We need a specific playbook. Because trust me, each section of the SAT has its own rhythm, and each one needs a totally different strategy. Let's start with math. The pace here changes a lot between the two sections. For the no calculator part, you've got 20 questions in 25 minutes, so that's a pretty quick pace. But then you get to the calculator section, and you get a little more breathing room per question to deal with the trickier problems. It's the perfect example of how you have to adjust your speed as you go.
Now this might be the most important rule for the math sections. A ridiculously hard question is worth exactly 1 point. That's the same as a super simple one you can solve in 30 seconds. Why would you ever let one tough question steal 5 minutes when you could have gotten 3 or 4 easy points in that same time? Don't do it.
Okay, on to the reading section. You've got 65 minutes for 52 questions, and they're all based on passages. The only way to tackle this is to break it down. You want to aim for about 12 to 13 minutes for each passage and all its questions. Look, this isn't about deep literary analysis. It's about being an information detective, skimming strategically to find answers, fast.
Now, the writing and language section, this is where you can fly. You have 44 questions in just 35 minutes, so yeah, the pace is quick. But here's the thing. So many of these questions are about grammar rules you either know or you don't. This section is your absolute best chance to bank some extra time for later. Which brings us to this idea of speed gold. Think of those grammar questions as pure gold when it comes to saving time. If you know the rule for a comma splice, you don't need to sit there and think about it for a minute. You spot the error, pick the right answer, and you move on. We're talking seconds. This is how you build up a time surplus. All right, we've got our section-by-section plans. Now let's talk about some pro-level tactics you can use across the whole test. These are the little habits that make a huge difference in your score.
This one is a total game changer. It's called the two-pass strategy, and it guarantees you won't miss any easy points. Here's how it works. On your first pass through a section, you only answer the questions you're confident about. Anything that seems tough or time-consuming, you just mark it and move on. Then, you use your leftover time to go back for a second pass, focusing only on those hard ones. You lock in your base score first, and then you hunt for the bonus points.
And let's be really clear about something. Strategic skipping is not giving up. It's a smart, tactical move to get the highest score possible. It's you recognizing that your time is better spent answering 3 other questions than fighting with one monster problem. It's about checking your ego at the door to get more points. So let's do a quick hitter list of speed hacks. For no-calc math, it's all about being precise, not panicking. For calc math, you've got to master your tools, especially that built-in Desmos calculator. It can solve some crazy problems in seconds. For reading, be a smart skimmer, not an over-highlighter. And for writing, like we said, knowing your grammar rules is the ultimate speed hack. Period. So we've covered the tactics, we have the playbook, but real mastery? That comes from making this part of your mindset. It's all about how you feel and think while that clock is ticking. And here's why this is so powerful. Think about how these strategies make you feel on test day. When you have a time plan, you're in control, and that makes you calm. When you fly through the writing section, you get this huge confidence boost. And knowing that skipping a question is actually a smart move for a higher score, that feels powerful, not like you failed. So the biggest thing I want you to take away is this. Mastering the clock is not about rushing. It's the exact opposite. It's about finding that state of flow, that deep focus, where you're just moving efficiently through the test. Think of yourself as a strategic point farmer, just calmly and confidently gathering up all the points you worked so hard for.
So I'll leave you with this question. After everything we've talked about, from the rhythm game to the two-pass strategy, the answer should be pretty obvious. You do. You control the clock.